Through this video, I will use the 5 R's framework to reflect on a teaching experience that I had during my last placement. During my last placement, I was provided with the opportunity to teach a Year 7 PE practical classes on the Oval. In my first lesson, I found that my instructions were unclear and confusing and that students were distracted while I was giving them. During the lesson, I felt overwhelmed and frustrated with myself. It felt like I was doing so much talking and it was taking me ages to explain the instructions because I wasn't being clear. We were outside, so I found that I was having to shout lots, which I found hard. It just didn't make me feel very confident that the students weren't understanding the instruction I was providing. After the lesson, my supervising teacher helped me to decide on specific areas that I needed to improve on. These are bringing the class in, getting them to be quiet, focus their attention on me, being clear and concise, and checking for understanding. By improving this area in my teaching, I feel that I will significantly improve the flow of the lesson and my confidence. Being able to properly structure my instructions will have a significant impact on student learning outcomes, as these instructions should deepen their understanding of the practical content. It will also affect their learning outcomes because if they are distracted while I'm talking, they may not be able to connect the activity to the learning goals. To improve on my instructions, I can implement a range of different teaching strategies. One of these strategies is organising the space in which I'm in to be giving the instructions. This includes being in close proximity to the students. This would help keep their attention focused on me and would stop me having to shout all of my instructions. Another teaching strategy I could implement in the classroom is checking for understanding through questioning. Developing questions that align with this learning goal should encourage students to remain engaged. Asking appropriate questions provides opportunity to check for understanding and ensure that students know how the activity relates to their learning goals. My supervising teacher was able to give me some strategies I could implement for when I am teaching practical classes outside. These include dot pointing steps to the drills prior to the lesson, using students to demonstrate, sitting students down when giving instructions, and waiting until students stop talking. Adopting routines and rules for the class is a way to ensure that students understand what is expected of them. In the class mentioned, I struggled with bringing the students in, getting them quiet, and bringing their attention to me. By using the same routine every time I bring the class in to talk to them, would ensure that the process becomes quicker. I believe part of the issue was that it was my first time teaching a practical lesson outside, and I was unprepared with strategies that I could implement to manage the class. Leading up to the lesson, I was more focused on what we were going to do through the lesson rather than on classroom management or how I would deliver instructions. An area that I need to focus on is knowing strategies specifically for being outside in HPE. More experienced teachers would have a range of strategies that they could implement when teaching outside. During my placement, I observed a range of different HPE teachers and I took notes on how they gave their instructions, so hopefully these notes will help me in the future. When reflecting on the lesson with my supervising teacher, she gave me a better understanding of how she manages the classroom. She said that when she brings the students in to give instructions, she waits until they're sitting down, quiet, facing her before she starts talking. She also said to establish classroom rules and routines early to ensure that their students understand what is expected of them. This advice aligns well with the theory from Archer and Hughes in 2011 that was discussed earlier. Providing instructions is an area that I really need to improve on, as it is a key aspect in student learning outcomes. From the beginning of my next placement, I am planning to implement a consistent routine for all of my classes. This will help students to understand what I expect of them and hopefully will contribute to spending less time giving instruction and more time doing the activity. The routine I would try to implement is blowing the whistle, hand signal and ask the class to come in, face students away from other distractions in the sun, wait for the class to be quiet and have their attention on me, deliver instructions using students to help demonstrate if necessary, and checking for understanding and questions. My supervising teacher provided me with the strategy of writing down the important steps to drills or activities so that I can practice saying them before the class. I started to use this in my last placement and found that it really helped me, so I will be sure to implement it in future placements. I will also make sure that I organise the students when I'm giving instructions. I can do this by bringing the students in close proximity to me and to sit them down if they're talking.